Good evening. This evening we're going to take and go through an exercise to discuss and put on the blackboard some ideas of how to make the world sustainable. We have a specific assignment that each student is supposed to turn in, and the purpose tonight is to give you some food for thought as you work on that exercise. You can ignore what we put on the board tonight, or you can be involved to the extent you wish to in terms of including some of these ideas. But we are going to talk about what top 10 actions should be taken to advance sustainability and sustainable development, and who should take each action. That is, individuals, organizations, companies, governments, United Nations, and so forth. And I know that some of you are in a field such as architecture, and if you would like to take your top 10 list and make it completely for your own field, that would be fine. If you want to make it general in terms of all subjects, that's fine. But we want to have some dialogue tonight, and Ryan Green is here and Oral Salters is here, and they're going to specifically help me tonight, and one of them is going to write ideas on the board that you present, and the other is going to make a list so that when we get done tonight and erase the board, we still have a record of that. And Dr. Jim Steichen is here to help us, and he has a lot of wisdom, and we invite your participation in this dialogue as well as Ryan and Oral. So at this point, we'll go ahead and get started, and whoever wants to present the first idea, please go ahead and do that. So is there somebody who has something they'd like to share? You want to start, Steve?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, one of my issues was consumption patterns among developed nations, and one of the facts I found is that since 1950, the world's populations consumed more goods and services than all previous generations combined.
Okay, and so is your thought then that we ought to be conserving and think in terms of efficiency and conservation in terms of our consumption?
Yeah, specifically in developed post-industrial nations that have the resources to reduce
Okay,
consumption.
so consumption patterns, and there are two words we use. One is conservation in terms of the idea of simply not buying something or not using something, and the other is efficiency in terms of the idea of trying to be efficient with what we do. And so I think both of those are. And now as far as who should do this, we have the idea of individuals being involved, but I suspect organizations could try to operate efficiently, and governments can try to operate efficiency. Do you have any particular thought as to who this applies to?
Sure. Well, I tailored this one specifically to consumers because I think in a demand-driven economy that we can make choices right now, such as simple things such as purchasing fluorescent light bulbs over incandescent, and simple things like that that can drive manufacturers to go green by our consumption patterns.
Right. Okay. All right. Good. Okay, I think you had your hand up, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say improved battery technology.
Okay, better battery technology. We have the potential for electric cars, and if we had batteries so that you could take an electric car and go from Goodland to Kansas City without recharging your battery, that would be an example of something that would be worthwhile. And so we certainly need, you might say, better batteries, and we sometimes talk about energy density of storage, and so the weight of the battery relative to the amount of energy that we can store. But and so who should work on batteries?
I said the federal government should, and I kind of did mine more for like the United States, since we're like such a huge consumer right now.
Okay.
And because it's like, you know, my country, and I want us to do well and like actually make it through this green revolution, I guess. But I said that the federal government needs to come in and maybe have some sort of like green Manhattan project where they like fund something and just say like, this is the end goal. We want this better battery technology to support like electric cars, like you said, and also renewable energy, wind, solar, you can start storing those batteries.
Okay, so the federal government could be a source of funding, and there are federal labs. They could do some research in federal labs, but perhaps those of us in the academic world could get a federal grant and work on the project as well. So those are examples of that.
I come from private funding, but I think private funding would work even better, because once you get a business behind an enterprise and they can generate it for profit, I mean, that seems to me, as far as research and development goes, seems to work better than publicly funded.
Okay, and certainly the private funding is another alternative, and very appropriate. When we do get private funding, we often get good results from that. Kevin, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I came in a little late, so we're reading from our list of 10 ideas at the end.
Well, you don't need to read from your list, but that's acceptable. Some people haven't done their list yet, and but go ahead.
Okay, I was increase local agriculture and food production. We're going to talk about that.
Okay, we haven't talked about that
Yeah,
yet.
on a local scale, because I mean, there was a big lecture on like how much food we used to produce in Kansas in like 1910 compared to now, it's just a fraction of what it used to be. So I think if we had more local production, it would lower the cost down to like organic food, things that are helpful for us.
Okay, so certainly one general issue is to make food production sustainable, and
Get rid of like waste from transportation, and also just waste from what it was contained in, as far as wrapping it goes, or like storage.
Okay. And as far as this sustainability initiative, who are the players?
Well, I think this has to, like he was, it has to start on a smaller scale. It has to be a local level, because then if more people are doing it in a smaller scale, then it's going to catch on faster to other people. You can't just make like a large-scale organic thing that works. Because transportation costs and like the cost of the food itself goes up.
So this would be kind of the local producer level that you were thinking of. Okay, Mary?
I had something, well, I said I also wanted to increase the local food production, but in a different way. I thought that, I've read that the subsidies that the government has for farmers right now actually make it easier for the large-scale farms to succeed rather than the small scale. So we need to somehow like flip that and change that subsidy so that we're not, giving money to those big, not organic, big farms.
So you would try to promote the small scale local production of small scale farms then.
But yeah, and then also like taking away that subsidy, potentially decreasing those large farms that we have.
Yeah, decreasing the subsidy for large farms. Okay. Yes.
I just have three things to say on what has been said.
Okay.
I remember earlier on, I want to agree with the guy who says private sector funding, because when the MIT professor came in for the Energy Initiative lecture, he said that the change in the next, our demand is projected to double in the next, between now and 2050, our energy demand, and he said like he expects that change to come from the private sector. For the food production, the local and organic, I just read a study that said number of food miles, it's debatable whether that's actually decreased with the way that that's working. So unless they're extremely small, localized, like food production, then that's the only way for that to be energy effective. And then as far as the subsidies, George Bush actually tried to cut the federal subsidies down to 250,000 maximum, but he ran into problems with the agricultural lobbies, and so the Farm Bill will come again next year, and I don't know what Barack planned about doing that, but that's what I have to say about it.
Yeah, we always have people who lobby for things, and as long as we have a democracy, we're going to have some of that and have to deal with that. But thank you for your input. It's good. So who's next to share a new idea? Yes, Nathan or Daniel?
Yeah. How about if we related sustainability with waste management, especially in developing countries?
Talking about getting energy from waste, is that what you're saying?
Waste management, I mean, we talk about the sustainable development in developing countries, so we related to waste management.
Okay, so making waste management as sustainable as possible, and certainly one element there is the anaerobic digester to take and produce energy from waste. Daniel comes from Africa, and the waste management in Africa needs to be made.
Especially I come from, I mean, the town that I live in, there's only 5 miles from River Nile, and usually, I believe usually have flooding, so and people dump stuff along the river, or but sometimes just nearby, and during the flooding, it causes a disaster.
Yeah.
So maybe we need a lot of improvement in terms of recycling, and maybe have a good system of developing this management.
Yes. That's so. In other words, one of the developing country initiatives that we need is to simply have good sanitation and good waste management so that things function well. Next idea. Yes, Paul.
I'd like to question about the truck emission reduction. You're all aware how truck plays a role in goods distribution network for this country, US, and identified major actors in this sector are the IPA. The government even provided funding for 500 million some time ago. There was local communities, environmental groups, and the industry. Then I came up with 10 points on how they would handle this situation. One of them is to focus on areas that provide the greatest return on investment, especially retirement of the older trucks, because they emit more. So retiring the old truck and emphasis on new ones that are more efficient and those the environment. Then we also target on air quality enforcement that actually for the bad actors, people who are not obeying the law, so that there are.
So we need air quality enforcement is one of the issues. And,
That's right.
yeah. Okay.
And then probably come up with also incentives for the encourage and offer incentives or require off-road equipment on public project sites to use diesel that meets the on-road standards. You know, they're also creating the diesels. So if you have encouraging to use diesel less sulfur, they don't pollute the environment more.
So we've had some significant advances with taking the sulfur out of diesel fuels, and so there's been some progress in that area, and so we're making some progress with that particular issue.
But it should be encouraging to do a lot more.
Yeah.
The guys, the actors.
So what you're saying is we need to do a lot more.
Yeah, to make recognize the role the diesel trucks play in the distribution of goods in this country. This needs to be continued, because if you lack again, although that initiative has been there, we need to get it so that it starts continuous, it's sustainable, and pollute the environment. There are more points, but with that, I'll stop there, but there are other things that we consider.
What'd you say?
I'll stop there, but the other things
Okay.
to consider, yeah.
All right, good.
Can I add?
Nathan, go ahead.
You mentioned sulfur. The price of sulfur is, I think, $4.25 per gallon. It's higher than gasoline or butane. Also, are really high right now. Finding ways to recycle sulfur is like, what is it? As a plant nutrient. And so I would say recycling streams and diesel's good. I think that one is good.
That's it? Yep. Okay. There it is, okay. Okay, who wants to be next?
Well, I have a degree in architecture and planning, so I focus more on like the building side, since construction and buildings consume most of the energy that the U.S. uses today. I would think that would probably be one of the most important things to focus on in the environment. That one thing is that the government should require all new homes to be Energy Star certified.
Okay, so the whole business of efficient buildings and some standards for homes would be one example of that. And we have the LEED certified buildings for commercial buildings, and there's been some progress with respect to that.
And there's some for, LEED has some stuff for just homes, but it's more attainable for a home to be Energy Star certified, which is typically about 30% more energy efficient than a regular constructed home. So.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good one, and I guess in terms of who should do that, individual contractors and people who build buildings should join that, but I think you're saying also that the government should require some level of efficiency in all buildings.
I can add to that. Also having some nonprofit groups, community organizations to help families that can't do that for their own homes, so that you get a community involvement helping each other, so that all homes can have a chance at becoming more efficient.
Yeah, I think there have been some habitat organizations that have helped to improve the efficiency of homes. Yes, Kevin?
And even like making the products used for building more sustainable, and like even just production of them and what's going into them, making that more friendly.
All right. Certainly, as we think about building materials, wood, for example, is a renewable resource to use in building a home, and the plastics from petroleum are a non-renewable resource, and we'd probably find some of each in a typical home. So there may be some material issues there as well. Paul?
I missed one point.
Okay.
Encourage the use of biodiesel. Biodiesel.
The what?
Biodiesel.
Okay.
Biodiesel.
Biodiesel.
For such fuels.
Okay.
Standards.
Yeah, biodiesel. All right. Okay. Mary?
To the efficient buildings, I had, well, I was thinking about the Montreal Agreement, which, phased out all the refrigerants by the United Nations.
Yeah, the Montreal Protocol to deal with the refrigeration gases that destroy the ozone.
Right. So I was thinking kind of like a project like that, but like phasing out inefficient like appliances. Like I know there's lots of people in like Kansas City who like build these big, huge houses, and then they put in like the least efficient furnace that they can put in there, just because like they can pay for the gas, it doesn't matter, But like phasing those out and having maybe like a document that does that worldwide, but it's similar to like the Energy Star stuff.
Right. Okay. So the Energy Star appliances and for furnaces and appliances and water heaters and so forth to be efficient.
Inefficient appliance protocol.
Yeah.
I really think that would be cool.
I like it.
Well, I think the state of California already has some standards with respect to that, and Jim has daughters out there, and he's shaking his head yes.
Actually, as I understand it, the local utility, one that's in San Diego, if they do, say a refrigerator that's high efficiency, they may, give her a check of $100 to cover part of that extra deal, and that in some way goes into their base. So instead of, burning more coal to make electricity, they save it, but they still get a return on their investment. So it's good for both sides of that.
That's how it is for Energy Star certified homes. If you have an Energy Star certified home, you get tax credits. So a home that's Energy Star certified, built to those standards, isn't really much more expensive than a regular home.
And of course, one of the issues here is that if we were to put in a carbon tax or in some way increase the price of burning coal and burning natural gas and burning gasoline and diesel fuel, that then provides an incentive to have a more efficient car or a more efficient hot water heater or a more efficient furnace. And so that's one of the ways to deal with that. Yes?
I think another step to add to that list is the educational aspect, to teach people that these programs are even out there. A lot of people don't realize that there's even Energy Star certification.
I think the public education is an important issue, and that's one of the things that Oral and Ryan have been doing in terms of some of their work. Our Center for Hazardous Substance Research has been involved in public education, and so now I'll ask the question of who all should be involved in the education. Is that
Everybody.
the schools, the universities?
The companies, the manufacturers,
and the television stations and newspapers? Okay. So we need a broad approach to the education, and that's good. Okay, Mary?
Sorry, about education, I think, like right now, going green is something that like a lot of people think rich people do, because you like have to have the money to buy solar panels or the money to buy a Prius or like things like that. So I think that with public education, we have to get out and get everyone involved, like they're saying. But I know I was reading something that said in California, it's like Proposition 87 or something that, like Al Gore supported, Bill Clinton came out and supported, and basically it was putting a tax on extracting oil in their state, which like wouldn't have really affected the price of how much they were going to pay for natural gas or oil, the actual citizens. But the oil companies came in and said, like, marketed to all the lower class, middle class people, saying this is going to increase the cost of your heating and you won't be able to afford your home anymore. And so then the proposition ended up failing, and like we had all of Silicon Valley on its side, but like you needed that middle lower class to actually support you. So making sure that it like gets all the way through and everyone realizes.
Yeah, one of the educational challenges is to try to have a balance of what information is presented, and certainly in any political environment there's some information that's not always as correct as it should be, I guess is a good way to put it. And so we deal with that. Apart from campaigns, there's value in educating people. And one of my thoughts with respect to education also is to have people so they understand their own situation better, in terms of if you knew how much of your electric bill was due to your old inefficient refrigerator, for example, that would help you decide whether to replace it or not. So there's those elements of education as well as the general education activity.
Well, I think of the air conditioner. I moved to a new house, leased a new house for me about 6 or 7 years ago. And it still had its original air conditioner from back in the early 80s. And it was abysmal in terms of efficiency. So rather than waiting for it to just totally die,
you put in a good, efficient one.
At any rate, it made a huge difference in that monthly.
Yeah.
And for those that can't move into a new home, find that situation is in place and can't afford to do anything about it, they could then apply to government incentive programs, nonprofit organization grants that could help fund those efforts. I know in California there's a lot of nonprofit organizations that do weatherization for homes, to put on new siding, new energy efficient windows and doors to keep those utility bills down. So that would go hand in hand with both the efficiency in buildings and the environmental outreach and education that takes place.
Jason?
A couple of years ago I purchased a new home, and all the homes are the same model basically in the subdivision. So, you know, one of the things that I found really would motivate people to get more efficient things, when they saw their utility bill compared to my utility bill, they were real motivated, because I was saving probably $100 a month, and it was the same house. And, you know, how did you do this? Well, you know, they installed a programmable thermostat. Did you bother to program that? No. You know, I had tile put in, which in Houston, tile cools the house a whole lot. The big thing is cooling the building is cold.
So, okay, good. And that's the programmable thermostat and technologies of that type. That's good. Yeah.
And then it's like showing the public, like, here's the same house, and here's mine, but I've saved this much more money a year. So it'd go to like the builder or whoever is in charge of the subdivision.
Okay. Who wants to be next? Yes.
So land management.
Land management, okay.
You know, that can be everything from natural resources to urban areas, but especially with the growth of metropolitan areas and urban sprawl, I think that there's a lot of wasted land within the cities that can be reused and that we can place people in and use downtowns better than they are right now.
Yeah, one of the issues with urban sprawl is that people spend a lot of gasoline money getting to work from suburbs, and so the whole business of regional and community planning and doing that efficiently and effectively, that's clearly important. Now let's maybe follow up on how do we accomplish that in terms of is this state laws or county zoning, or what do we do to accomplish it.
Yeah, and I think it starts with local mandates, or whether that be a municipality or whether you have a city sprawling across several counties, that becomes a multi-county sort of operation, or whether that even be a state run. You can set up urban growth boundaries and sort of dictate the parameters of where they can build and where they can't. And I think also that comes in with establishing public transportation systems.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of it, like Kansas City, from when I've been to Kansas City, that bus system is absolutely abysmal.
You can ride from Lawrence and back, that's pretty good.
Yeah. But can you ride it from Manhattan back?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We used to have a train that came from Manhattan,
Yeah,
Kansas
that's
City.
what I heard. So yeah, I mean, simple things like that.
Yeah.
We already have the infrastructure for the rail line, how hard would it be to take a passenger train and run it back and forth from Manhattan to KCI or to Kansas City?
If you go to other cities like Chicago or like Minneapolis, places that are a lot bigger than Kansas City, even more sprawled, and their public transportation is phenomenal. Like everybody's on it, it runs at good times. There's light rails, there's bus systems, there's
streetcar.
Yeah.
Well, even on a local scale, I mean, when you go to Lawrence and you see they've got like 12, 15 different KU buses that just go around Lawrence to get students to campus. Or we've got students here that drive 4 blocks to get to campus. I mean, public transportation needs to happen at all levels.
Okay.
Does the $1 gasoline make a difference in the driving part?
Yeah.
Nathan, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to add that just creates the system we have creates a huge tax burden on roads, and which is demand for petroleum in itself.
Yeah, if you have urban sprawl, you need highways to get these people out of the suburbs. And I guess I'd like to say one more thing about this topic of how we use our land. When I was in Denmark, they had streets for the cars and buses, and then bike lanes for the bicycles, and then sidewalks for the people to walk. And I think if we had much better bike lanes in Manhattan, I think we'd have maybe more people riding bicycles and having appropriate bike parking and so forth. Nathan?
They've been having bike meetings, like Students for Environmental Action has been doing, sending a few people to these bike meetings. I guess they're I think on Thursdays.
Good. So there's some progress towards bicycles. But I think it's good, and I guess in terms of these issues, these are probably the city government and county government need to take care of it at that level. Yes?
One more little piece to add to the land management section there. Aside from the urban issues, you've got the issues of preservation and restoration, environmental efforts put into land. And then some of the conflicts of those where you have, like recently, the option to propose offshore drilling in areas that were already put aside for preservation. So you have to, look at the balance between the development side of the land and the preservation side of the land.
I think that's important, and I would say in terms of getting people to move into the city and live in a high-rise or whatever, you need some green space around there as well.
And I think you could add infrastructure to that. There's a lot. I've seen examples of very poor stormwater sewer systems, which I don't think you really even need. We pipe it to the river and just contaminates it. So, and plus there's already a lot of energy in that. Yeah.
So we certainly need good stormwater management and good sewer system, and the infrastructure is important.
That leads right into one of the major topics that I had, which was with water management.
Okay, we haven't talked about that, so thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, and I think that the infrastructure for storm management is the first thing that needs to happen for just being able to capture stormwater as a major primary resource for obtaining fresh water and use it. With roof gardens, cistern systems, man-made aquifers like parking lots, and so on and so forth to really capture the rainwater and use it and not just pollute it.
Yeah, the rain garden concept of slowing the runoff so that you don't have flooding and to let it infiltrate and be available for local use there is important. Kevin, did you want to add something?
Yeah, and like efficiency and water use, especially like in agricultural purposes.
Okay.
Like how much we're using to how much we actually need. Like there's so many surveys done for like how much a plant of water it actually needs to how much we're putting onto it, like how much water is just run off. We can do like simpler sprinkle systems compared to just like massive just water. So I mean, we have really primitive technology for our water.
Okay, so irrigation efficiency and what I would say with respect to irrigation that I think the subsurface release of the water with kind of a drip into the subsurface is often the most efficient, and there's certainly been some, what should I say, progress in developing that. I think that with water, we're in the same situation as with energy, that if you increase the price people need to pay, they're probably going to fix the dripping faucet quicker if the price is a little higher, and likewise from an irrigation efficiency standpoint, they'll use it more efficiently if the price is higher.
Well, and then there's the household level of just simple reuse, reuse, recycle methods of, like they have these new technologies where the water from the sink then collects in the cistern for the toilet and use that water to flush the toilet, so you don't actually have to use fresh water to flush your toilet.
Gray water.
Yeah, you have gray water recycling systems, and those need to be really implemented at the household level and businesses alike. So.
Yes, Mary?
Just on the same topic, I had decreased the amount of water that industries use. You know, all the huge plants use billions and billions of gallons of water, like yearly, and it's ridiculous. So just like.
So better cooling technology?
Yeah. Increase their efficiency with
I think that certainly it's possible for companies to be more efficient, and probably government agencies and so forth as well. And cooling water and processed water both can be used more efficiently. Nathan?
I would argue that industry is pretty much teaching the rest of the world how to be most efficient with those technologies. Like they've been the most effective at conservation of energy and water resources.
Well, I think you're right, but perhaps not with every industry, but I think that there are a number of industries that do pretty well, and so I would agree with you in that regard, but it certainly, what I would say with respect to water is that in coal power plants where you need cooling water to cool the condensed steam, that there are technologies to use air instead and so forth. But
don't we need water for nuclear power plants as well?
Yeah, and that's another place where you need cooling water, and what I would say is where water is a premium, they have had air-designed cooling towers that can be used as well. So there are alternatives to using the water. Yes?
Well, I think one of the major differences between energy resources and water is that we have renewable energy resources like wind and sun that you can't deplete solar energy. I mean, it's there, whereas water is a finite resource, and as our population continues to grow, eventually that supply is going to peak and we aren't going to have it. So I think one of the, it might not be a conservation thing, but one of the things that we can do is invest in water desalination. And I think they're already doing that in Tampa, Florida. They opened like the first plant. And while that's an energy, it's not necessarily an energy efficient process, it sort of preempts the issue before we get to crisis stage, because no matter how much you conserve, you're eventually going to be getting down to a critical supply. Is that still, it's about double the price right now versus extracting it.
You know, what I would say is that there certainly is the potential to desalt seawater and brackish water, and that's an alternative. And I agree with you in the sense that if you take the state of Kansas, for example, you could say we have a kind of an average finite water supply in terms of the rainfall that falls on Kansas, and we can try to keep it from leaving the state by having dams and reservoirs and so forth. But there are a lot of water issues that are important in Kansas. And southwest Kansas with the Ogallala Aquifer, and I would say in general western Kansas from like Salina and Wichita on west, there are lots of water issues in a lot of communities that are important, and so for them to conserve and be efficient with using water is important. Jessica?
I think that's one of the biggest problems with water management is the collaborative effort that it takes. Because water is a resource that does not lie within political boundaries, it is a universal resource that is shared across the globe, and it needs to be viewed as such. And unfortunately, a lot of our resource management policies rely on political boundaries to delineate where that management effort ought to be taking place, and it limits our ability to manage the water efficiently.
Yeah, there are indeed challenges, and I guess what you're saying is that in some cases we need new organizational structures
A shared approach
to address these issues, and so we need to find ways to have partnerships and sharing and work with that.
And the transportation of areas that have abundancy of water to share with those that don't.
And what it amounts to is that the water can run through pipelines, but if you've ever tried to truck water very far or move water in containers very far, it's relatively inefficient in terms of you use a lot of gasoline to move some water, and so from that standpoint, putting water in pipelines or letting it flow in rivers is what we generally do.
Yeah, I mean, like, because the Colorado River is so depleted now because we're converting water from what's a natural boundary thousands of miles into Southern California and Arizona, places that are using their water for large fountains and things that are unnecessary. I mean, do we need to deplete our water because they're doing these things with it?
Well, and we've got
it comes to an efficiency issue, really.
And you have these, the Imperial Valley, which is this, it's an oxymoron to be taking place where it's located, and so that's kind of an issue with the land use management and the water use management working together across boundaries.
Yeah, I would say that there are a variety of issues here that are important with respect to how we use our resources in a, you might say, complex systems approach, efficient way. And so from that standpoint, we sometimes need to solve complex problems using a systems approach. And so
something with water management, you mentioned education. I think that's really important. One thing I always stuck in my mind is an article I was reading. It was a quote out of an article. They were talking about Lake Mead in Nevada and Las Vegas area. They had quoted a homeowner because they had put a ban on watering lawns. And a homeowner was quoted as saying, what are they trying to do is turn this place into a desert.
Already it does.
Why don't you write down education under water management? I think that's one that we should add to that.
Well, and
I've heard
getting away from the idea of having these well-manicured lawns everywhere they need to be living. I mean, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Paul?
Yeah, one information about water management in Africa. You are all aware about the River Nile, second longest in the world, second in Mississippi. It starts with the Victoria, also the second largest. It goes through Uganda, Sudan, goes to and then down to Mediterranean Sea. That past Egypt. Now, there was a treaty between East African countries, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Egypt in 1958. The British signed the treaty that they would use the water they were using. Now, these countries became independent in the 60s, and now, until today, Egypt still claims and they're ready to go to war if Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania develop dams, hydroelectric power stations along the Nile. They are ready to go to war. Sometimes they just threaten. They are even giving incentives like boreholes so that Kenya can reduce using using the Nile water. So I just want to mention how sensitive water management and water use is not only in the US, it's also everywhere in Africa, and there should be treaties that are workable between the parties, not only selfishly like what the British signed in 1958, that only took interest of Egyptians and not Kenya, not Uganda, because up till today they can't build big hydroelectric dams because of the water being diverted and they try to dictate, they try to chip in all the time, especially the Egyptian government.
You can add Ethiopia and Sudan to that list.
So this water is treaties now and between the countries.
And
there are a lot of challenges.
In our environment, we have the state of Colorado and the state of Kansas and the Arkansas River, and so we have our issues, and we have to go to the U.S. Supreme Court to get it solved. So it's in your part of the world and our part of the world. It's certainly an important issue. Nathan.
I just wanted to add what she was saying. I worked in groundwater contamination this past summer, and where we found the most contamination were in like two places. Golf courses, their water demand is ridiculous, and the other one was grain silos. So those are by far. If you don't want to drink any water like in a pond like on a golf course, because that's probably the most contaminated water ever.
I guess one of the things that's good for all of us to know is that the microbial content of water is one of the issues to be concerned about when you're not drinking from a potable water supply. So we're just about done. Any final comments from anybody? Yes?
I was just thinking of reusable containers. Like our country doesn't produce any more reusable containers really anymore. Everything's disposable.
I would say that reusable containers is good. We use reusable dishes at our house to eat dinner on, for example, but you go to the union and you get some paper plates and so forth. But I think reusable containers is good. I went to Europe and went to Czechoslovakia and went to the grocery store and didn't realize I was supposed to bring my own container to take my groceries home. And so there are places in the world where you're expected to bring your own bag to carry home what you bring. So
maybe just a decrease in packaging too with what we have. I mean, the cereal box has all this cardboard and then the plastic in it too. Maybe we can develop something that's going to work better than that.
Yeah, we do a lot with packaging. Jason?
Europe already hasn't it?
Do you have your hand up?
Well, one thing I think is there needs to be an overall mindset change. To the people in this room, these are all important issues. and it's something we probably care about. But, you know, when we go to work or wherever, and back to our neighborhoods, it's not important to anybody. I mean, it just really isn't, because they don't feel the impact, or they can't see the impact of things or whatever. I think that, you know, I think that's a real difficult thing to bring about. I think people change their mind when it's more difficult to be the way they are than some other way. And I don't know how to do that.
Yes.
I think it's a convenience issue. I think that our recent generations have just become so used to these recent technologies of plastics and disposables that are just at our convenience that we don't care enough to put forth the effort to change those ways. And that's going to take time to adjust as we teach our younger generations, and that's where the educational values are so important.
Okay, Paul?
I think we can't give up that way. We have to choose radio, media, television, and talk about this openly. And let somebody be trying to show them how to do it the way we are talking in the room here, and explain to them through TV and tell them how. Talk about grey water use now.
Well, one of the interesting parts. Yeah, one of the interesting parts about what we've done this semester is we are putting the lectures up on Google Video, and so if it's okay with all of you, we'll put this on Google Video for the rest of the world and get the information out there. So I hope that's agreeable to everybody. Yes.
Even the use of bicycle. You get the posters and circulate all through the campus. Use bicycles. When you have riding 4 blocks. So you must disseminate information. You have to continue doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Next time we have oral presentations, and Nathan and Ashley and Jason and Kevin and Dan are up next week, and Steve and Jessica, Emily, Mary and Daniel and Ryan are 2 weeks from tonight. So come back next week, and thank you Ryan, and thank you all, and thank you class, and thank you for guests who come.
Had I known I was going to be on the World Wide Web, I would have.
Okay.
Yeah, blow my face out.